Hi, DBS Store here. This is a review/comparison of the two state-of-the-art, high-end rudder pedals for flight sims or enthusiasts looking for something more than what entry-level models can offer. By entry-level, I am referring to SciTech and even CH pedals due to their narrow design, which is unsuitable for center mounting your joystick in a Simped. Pedal width alone results in better overall control and higher precision. The main advantages of these pedals lie in their ruggedness and durability, which come from the materials used, aluminium and modern composites, together with use of non-contact magnetic sensors which do not wear out over time. I need to explain about different pedal designs before I can go into details. Essentially, the pedals differ in how you place your feet on them. With this type of pedals, your heels rest on the floor and pedals are manipulated with the forward area of your feet, not toes. When using toe brakes, it is necessary to lift your feet off the ground or move them forward. I have also seen this design being called combat rudder pedals. Pilots often rest their feet on the floor when not using them in flight. This type, on the other hand, requires both feet being placed on pedals throughout the flight. Simped rudder pedals made by Mr. Hoffman from Germany have now almost a legendary status. This is Simped F16/USB, top of the range model. Unfortunately, about a year ago he ended production and closed his online shop, DHS Electronic. I personally know pilots who used them for over 10 years, which is a testament to their quality and design, one of the reasons why I purchased them for myself in the first place. Simpeds feature a magnetic sensor for rudder control, and this is what I've been told, load cells for registering toe brake input. Toe brakes work great, but aren't very accurate in practice. They start to register movement when you reach 2/3 of the range, and by then you're left with either 50% brake pressure or completely locked out brakes. Due to the way they have been calibrated, the sensor never registers 100% maximum deflection. Instead, the highest it will go is about 95%. In practice, however, this is completely negligible. As far as materials go, my guess is that the base, or at least the outer shell, is made out of plastic, the rudder levers out of some kind of composite material, and the most prominent feature, pedals themselves, which look great, out of cast aluminium. The assembly wasn't at all complicated when I first got them, and the instructions that came with were straightforward and easy to follow. I only had to pay attention to these toe brake cables since they are attached to the pedals and cannot be removed. The install itself is just plug and play, no calibration needed. Cable is about 2 meters long, which is great if you don't have your PC case next to your flight sim gear. A very cool feature indeed is this little button here at the back. Pushing it cycles between 3 profiles, linear, which is default, exponential for fixed wing, and logarithmic for helicopters. Very quickly, I learned to appreciate the exponential one and have been using it most of my time with Simpeds. On the underside here, there are 4 grooves with pre-drilled holes for Simped hard mounting, or as I have done it, for use with pre-cut Velcro pads that were also part of the package. Those Velcros work great, providing you have another set glued to a solid surface. On carpets, in my experience, you're better off hard mounting them. Simped F16/USB sensors register 127 positions on all 3 axes. I wish someone had told me this before I purchased them. Information about custom-made pedals is sometimes hard to find, and this is precisely why I'm doing this review with as many details I can think of. Still, they do the job very nicely, in spite of lower resolution by today's standards. I've read about some Simped owners mentioning a dead zone problem. With no slack in the center, this was a surprise to me. I switched back to a default profile to double check. As you can see here, the default profile skips 2 positions off center, both left and right. My guess is that this is what some users identified as a dead zone problem. The solution? Switch to the exponential profile. Lastly, and for comparison with MFG pedals, I'm going to measure their width. Inner width equals 27 centimeters or 10.5 inches, while the outer width equals 46.5 centimeters or 18.25 of an inch. MFG Crosswind is a brand new model just appearing on the market, being built here in Croatia by Mr. Šimunđa. Actually, what I have here is a prototype given to me for testing and review before going into production. These pedals have been refined and refined over time based on inputs from real and virtual pilots and adjusted for use with flight simulators. So what you are looking at here isn't the very first prototype, it is the final release candidate. Simped F16s resemble pedals you can find in an F-16 fighter, while these look like something one would find in Luftwaffe fighters of World War II era, for example Me-109, 110, Focke-Wulf 190 and so on. The pedals are built mostly out of composite and on some areas aluminium. The composite material has roughly 30% weaker mechanical characteristics than aluminium, which is compensated with higher thickness. The feel is very rugged with no flex whatsoever. There are 17 bearings in total here. Sensors used are magnetoresistor for rudder and Hall effect non-contact for toe brakes. The key feature of these pedals is the cam profile here, used to simulate rudder movement around the center, combined with the adjustable and variable spring stiffness. By variable, I mean both linear and progressive stiffness achieved with this here lever and two settings on it. The normal spring stiffness is adjustable with a rotary nut from the front side. For testing purposes, I have been given 4 different cam profiles, 2 of which will be included in the final package. The 2 I have selected feature small but noticeable center position with varying increase in resistance towards the end positions. Simpeds, on the other hand, have a very strong center bump. Out of the other 2 profiles, one gives exactly this kind of feedback. It is called Cam 2. The 4th one features almost no center feel, and this is the one I disliked the most. For an added cost about 10 euros, you can order the 3rd one, or Cam 2 profile, that features Simped type of a bump. In addition to the spring and cam adjustments, MFG pedals also feature adjustable pedal angle, adjustable toe brake spring stiffness, and you can even swivel the pedals. Right now I have them set at 40 degrees and second strongest spring stiffness. For complete tutorials on how to adjust the pedal angle and toe brake resistance, I recommend that you watch tutorials posted on YouTube by Mr. Shimunja. The assembly was a breeze. You only have 8 screws to mount, 4 for the pedals and 4 for wall distancers, with the only thing to look out for being the length of the screws. The longer ones are for the pedals, if I recall correctly. Speaking of which, these distancers are very useful for someone who doesn't want to hard mount the pedals and has a wall right behind his desk. If you were to hard mount them, there are 4 pre-drilled holes here just for that purpose. Also, an interesting feature is this removable cable. Installing them requires a bit more work than I expected, and this is a direct result of using Hall effect sensors combined with the adjustable pedal angle. Once you find your ideal angle, you need to set the end positions or calibrate them. Fortunately, the instructions on how to do this are straightforward and very easy to follow. The resolution of this thing is out of this world when compared to Simpeds. 16-bit controller registers 3600 positions on rudder and 1000 to 1300 positions on toe brakes through 20 degrees of movement. Again, this is a prototype, so you can disregard this BRD name here. The final product, once the electronics are finished, will track 3800 positions on rudder axis, and it will show a proper MFG name once you plug it in. The actual positions, unlike, I'm guessing these are raw sensor readings, will also be shown. You probably noticed some small spiking. This is deliberate because there is no filtering on the sensors and the noise is minimal, especially with this kind of resolution. Makes for faster response times. As seen here in the Windows Game Controller setting window, there is no spiking whatsoever. In comparison with Simpeds, these are a bit wider, measuring 29 centimeters or 11.5 inches inner width and 50 centimeters or 19.5 inches outer width. The pedals are 28 centimeters or 11.5 inches long. The very first thing that you will notice when using them is the smooth center as a direct result of a cam profile. There is almost no bump like you would find on Simpeds. This translates into extremely accurate and, more importantly, faster maneuvers that require rapid rudder movement from one side to another. Then there is this lever accompanied with adjustable spring stiffness. Inner position is pretty much identical to Simpeds and what most pedals have, a linear action. Hooking the spring on the outer position gives an exponential spring action, i.e. harder to move as you push closer towards end positions. The feedback you get with this mechanism is simply phenomenal. If I was to draw a comparison, I would have to compare this to the first mode any hardcore sim racer does or should do, and that is installing progressive spring into the brake pedal. You see, the brain memorizes required force much better than required distance. The only thing I see superseding this is installing force feedback into your pedals. If this sells successfully, you may even see a force feedback MFG model next year. Third pro is naturally the resolution, which on paper looks light years ahead of Simped F16. In practice, the difference isn't nearly that drastic. You can feel it though. For what it's worth, I've seen comments that over 1,500 positions you cannot register the difference. The next pro are toe brakes, super accurate with great feedback. The fifth pro is the crazy level of ergonomics. Brake pedal angle is my second biggest remark about Simpeds. I had to set my chair on the lowest seat setting in order for my feet to be in the parallel contact with them. With the pedals at a relatively steep angle, it seems to me that as if they were built primarily for Simped use and hard mounting, not the case with MFG pedals. Pilots who keep and use their pedals below the desk, myself included, will find this second to none as far as comfort goes. The distancers allow for close positioning towards the wall, which makes for more legroom. You'll find the removable cable useful when setting them up for your ideal position. The sixth and final pro is the price. Although still very expensive, at €250 plus VAT and shipping, it is nearly identical to the Simped F16 model. As a Simped owner, I can tell you firsthand that you are getting much more out of these for the identical price. With all the features and adjustability, some argue they should cost a lot more. The base is triangular, mostly due to weight savings, has to be under 5 kilograms, else you pay extra for shipping. The main problem here is flipping over when being pushed with just one leg, like this, especially if pedals are set to a shallow angle. Not really a problem or a big remark, since they are super comfortable and you will keep your legs on them at all times. There is no need for resting them on the floor. Even if you occasionally tend to do this, using Velcro pads or hard mounting them properly will solve this problem completely. The second con for me is the small difference between 4 toe brake spring settings. The way this was designed is to use first 2 lower settings for younger pilots and the 2 higher ones for adults. For me, 3rd and 4th positions give perfectly sufficient resistance, although I would prefer a touch more. Third con is the inability to change pedal width. Fortunately, the swivel option comes in handy here and solves this problem almost completely. I prefer wide pedals over narrow ones, but some may find them a touch too wide. For this reason, a different mounting plate can be ordered, but this in return eliminates swiveling due to the pedals being positioned close to the rudder mechanism. White color. Similar thing happened to Simped pedals. At first they were only available in white. I was fortunate to have received one of the first with a black colored base. Future batches of MFG pedals are planned to ship in a grey color. If I'm completely honest with you, not preferring the white color of my flight sim gear as well, I do have to admit that these look stunning in white, and probably any color by that matter. If I was nitpicky, I would say that some will probably find the install procedure a bit more than what they expected. Not a problem, especially with the step-by-step instructions that come included. The last con I will mention, and this is not a con but more of a warning, be careful with your Allen key. Do not over-tighten when adjusting them, else you will leave permanent marks on a very nice finish. I fly combat flight sims exclusively, so this is where all my practical testing or pedaling happened. My ideal settings were the spring set to a roughly 1 cm of stiffness on the forward nut, the lever on the outer position with the selected cam profile that further increases the exponential spring action. In DCS P51D module, higher precision and fast switching from one side to another during takeoff is where these pedals really shine. Normally with Simpeds I use built-in exponential profile. With MFG there was no need for this. But when I did finally set one through the in-game settings, it moved MFG pedals into a completely different category. Similar impressions I got when using 30 mic or GAU 8 on strafing runs with DCS A10C module. Crosswind landings are superbly modeled in DCS world, and performing them with this tool made it an even more enjoyable experience. The Crosswind name is well deserved in my opinion. As said previously, taxing with these toe brakes is superb. You can dose the right amount of braking power not to lock them and perform turns on the spot with higher precision. The sim in which you will get by far the biggest advantage is Rise of Flight. Simpeds already transformed the game for me and brought it to a completely new level. But MFG pedals with built-in exponential mechanics enabled me to glue myself to any plane's 6 o'clock and shoot it down rapidly. The varying resistance when compared to a linear spring action is best felt here. I still fly IL2 1946 a lot and do a lot of formation flying in it. As a dedicated bomber squadron leader, I can really appreciate this tool when you need to perform either precise or evasive maneuvers in a close formation. There is no need to set up any kind of exponential profile here, nor in Rise of Flight, in my experience. Owners of Thrustmaster Warthog know the feeling when you first opened the box and stood in awe how good Warthog looks and feels. To put it simply, this is the Warthog among rudder pedals and a perfect match if you already own one or are planning to. The king has been dethroned. Simpeds were and still are a phenomenal set of rudder pedals. Sadly, they're no longer in production, and for the short period we flight simmers were left out without an adequate replacement. Perhaps term dethroning sounds a bit harsh. A worthy successor would be the best way to describe MFG Crosswind rudder pedals. Get them while they're hot, you will not regret it. My Simpeds are up for sale if anybody's interested.